We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to This Song Is Yours, the podcast where we dive deep into the art of songwriting, chat with some of the most exciting artists in the world, and explore the stories behind their songs. I'm your host, Simon Fink, and as always, thank you for joining us. Before we get into today's guest, I do want to quickly flag that as we approach the month of May, This Song Is Yours is celebrating an incredible milestone of 500 episodes. And to acknowledge the 500 episode mark, we're going to be having a month full of exciting episodes with artists and guests. If you're not already and you're listening to this podcast just by chance, please make sure you subscribe to This Song Is Yours on whichever podcast app that you use. We really do appreciate it, and it makes sure that you're across all the incredible names that we have coming up in the month of May. But in the lead up to 500, we have still got a few more to go, and I'm super excited to announce that our guest this week is Sly Withers. The Perth emo-rock four-piece have grown from humble beginnings into one of the country's most beloved bands, building a loyal following through their heartfelt songwriting and high-energy live shows. Since forming in 2013, they've toured extensively, sharing stages with the likes of Amy Shark, Stand Atlantic and Tones and I, while also earning WAMI Award nominations, landing in the hottest 100 on Triple J, and charting in the ARIA Top 10. Today, the guys are returning with their brand new album, To Be Honest, a record that captures the band in a real moment of change. From lineup shifts, including the arrival of drummer Fraser Kringle, to exploring new sonic territory in the studio, the band have delivered some of the most raw and vulnerable songwriting to date, and it makes it easily their most compelling record yet. No strangers to this very podcast, we are welcoming Jono and Sam back for their fourth appearance on This Song Is Yours to chat all about To Be Honest and the evolution behind it. We talk about working with producer Stevie Knight, how becoming an independent band opened up new creative freedom, and how these songs are translating into the live setting, including their upcoming acoustic tour. Now we want to say a massive thank you to Skinny for his help with today's episode, and remind everyone that the brand new Sly Withers record, To Be Honest, is out now. You'll find links in today's show notes on where you can purchase the album and vinyl, follow the band across their socials, and grab tickets to their upcoming tour. While you are in the show notes, please make sure you're subscribed to This Song Is Yours and go and follow us on Instagram and TikTok. We would really love it if you did. It does help us out and it keeps you up to date with new episodes, guests, and everything else that we're working on. As some of you might already know, we've also recently relaunched our playlist feature on our website, so you can now find curated playlists from all your favorite artists and music curators over on our website. That website is thissongisyours.com. We're not going to waste any more of your time. Here is our chat with Sam and Jono from Sly Withers.
The cost wasn't all we left, I was sure we'd talk in the morning.
Please welcome back to This Song Is Yours. I feel like saying almost like part co-owners or share owners, or at this point, it is Jono and Sam from Sly Withers. Gentlemen, hello, welcome back. It is lovely to see you both and be chatting with you today. How are you? How are things?
Going well, thanks, man. Thank you for having us.
Of course. It is always an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast, and always an exciting time to have you on the podcast. I feel like each time we've spoken about new music, and it is no different this time around. We've got a brand new record, To Be Honest. It is out now. It's in the hot little hands of everyone who wants to listen to it and stream it online. How are you guys feeling? I know release week and release day is always a bit of a funny one because there's, a lot of blood, sweat and tears that are put into these things. But how are you both feeling with this new album, which has a lot behind it, which we're going to get into, but yeah, with it coming out today?
Feeling really good, like in general. I think we've been lucky enough to sort of be able to sit with it sort of since Christmas when we wrapped it up. So yeah, just really excited that we can finally put it out there and show it around a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very, very excited to have it out in the world now. It's been a long time coming, and yeah, very, very excited for people to hear it.
I think that there's going to be a lot of fans and people who, listen to the music of Sly Withers who are going to love this album. And again, not simply saying that to be hyperbolic, but it's a new Sly Withers that we're listening to in a way, both lineup wise and musically as well. Since the last record, there's been a few years of change, a few years of things going on. I wonder that to begin today's conversation, when it does come to almost like a transitional record in a way, is there a sense of nerves? Is it almost like putting out a not the debut, but almost like a new iteration of the band? Does that kind of play into it at all?
Like, in a way, yeah, definitely. And I think that's kind of what we wanted as well. Like, I think we were kind of intentionally trying to not have a re-debut, but like, it was definitely a feeling of like, okay, what we're doing now is different and we're going to treat it differently. And the entire process was different. And obviously having a new member and having them, just change the writing process in general. It kind of is a new Sly in a way.
It's super exciting. I think for me, sorry to butt in, Zoom podcast, hey. I think it was interesting hearing you ask that question, Simon. I was kind of thinking, it's actually really interesting. I feel like for me personally, that kind of the nerves of the newness and the how's this going to go down and how's it going to be received and stuff. For me, I think I felt that more in the actual writing process. That was when I processed those feelings, and kind of now I'm like, no, this is it. Yeah, this is us. I like let it rip, I'm very excited for people to have us quiz at what's been going on. But yeah, it was, those kind of feelings, I feel like they did kind of arise in the writing process a bit, but now it's just like, let's fucking go.
I feel as well, like both for myself and probably fans listening, it's a thing of that there's new information to us in not so much in real time, but more so, I guess, as an update in terms of that there is the fact that Joel is no longer with the band and that we have the lovely Fraser behind the kit, that there's new sonics attached to this project, that I want to say the songwriting is a lot more honest, which is also a bit of a funny thing for Sly Withers, only because I didn't ever think that you guys kind of shied away from that previously. So it's like that next level of that, and all that information together probably seems like a big change for us. But I imagine, as Sam, as you kind of alluded to, that you've been living with it, had the ability to process it, and now just excited for people to hear this music and for them to hear what it is that you've been working on and experimenting with.
For sure. I think that's exactly right. It's like we kind of maybe felt at times we were taking some gambles, and then, like you said, like we've sort of always been quite upfront and forward and honest songwriters. But I think these songs, like, we did kind of maybe go a little bit deeper, or different subject matter and stuff that appears deeper. I don't know. But yeah, no, it's weird to say, but yeah, just so excited that it's finally out. It's been, as Sam said, a really long time coming, and we've been sitting on it long enough, so it's time to get it out there.
100%. These new sonics, I do want to chat about the fact that there is a number of songs that have classic Slyisms. Is that a word, or maybe we'll make that a word? Slyisms to them.
We'll take it out.
Yeah, we'll roll with that. That they do sound like the music that people would expect from you, but then there are influences across this that have elements of, I want to say, like 2000s, like emo pop in a way. There's elements of the 1975 kind of was a band that I could hear there somewhat. I don't know if you guys are across the Rocket Summer, that band? Maybe?
No, I haven't.
No. I'll send that through later. That was another kind of sonic reference I got. But yeah, wondering where... I imagine it's that kind of thing of when you're wanting to experiment with a new album, and the fact that there were so many changes, was it that you kind of opened up to really anything? The fact that you could do different like ballads, different kind of sonics, put piano, I think there's auto-tune in some songs as well, if I'm correct.
Yeah, some vocoder and stuff as well, some like vocal processing stuff we've never really reached for before.
100%. Like, what was that process like going into the studio and then just allowing to kind of see what worked and what still, I guess, also worked within the Sly framework? You don't want to go too far out where it's a completely different thing, but what was able to kind of like mesh with that, what was already established?
That was something that was at the forefront of a lot of the discussions we were having, the whole writing process and a lot of the recording process, this idea of this desire to break the mold a little bit modernize things a little bit, kind of take some big swings here and there, but with the critical kind of thing at the core of it being we can't lose what this is and what people like about this. And so kind of that was really interesting in the sense of opening up conversations about like, what do people like about this? Like, what is important? What are those kind of keystones that we've got to hold on to? And what things can we kind of push the boundaries on? And a big part of that for us was getting Stevie Knight in on production. He's made some brilliant records that we've really, really loved. I think we kind of point to Skinny Dipping by Stand Atlantic as a really formative record for us in terms of like modern pop punk production and stuff, and everything else he's done with them and Red Hook and everything since has been super blow away for us. So I think being able to work with someone like Stevie who can help us pursue the kinds of bigger swings we're after, the kind of modernized is maybe not the best word, but it's the easiest word to use sometimes. That kind of glossy rock production in 2026. Stevie was a key part of that and helping us, figure out how to action all the bleeps and bloops and stuff as well that we were kind of interested in exploring. But yeah, it was sick. We're stoked. It's exciting times.
Has there already been that connect of how it's going to work in the live space? Because I imagine that the usual setup for Sly has been well established, and then bringing what was it? Like obviously there's one track that is just solely piano. There's drum pads. I feel other little bits, as you said, the bleeps and bloops. Has that already made its way into how it's going to play into the live space and when you take these songs on tour?
Yes, and so we've started running, since Restless came out, we've started having tracks as part of our live thing as well, which I was really excited about, and like something I've been wanting to do for a long time. Because I think in modern day era, like when you go and watch live music, like you can kind of tell who's got that extra like 10% of production-y stuff happening. I think it's a really cool tool to be able to put a set together with and sort of like kind of orchestrate some bigger moments within the live set. So I was been wanting to get into it for ages, and then having Fraser, who is a very like technical and gear oriented person, was more than happy to get all that stuff set up and sort of made it all possible. So it was a really great fit that he came on board around the time that we wanted to do it. So I think we're still treating it on like a song by song basis. We kind of like, that's been a really fun part of the process as well, to kind of go through all of the stems for all the songs and be like, okay, what do we want to sort of put forward in the live set and still have? And there's like a lot of the stuff that Stevie did, like that you kind of need to go through a session and be, soloing and muting everything to hear full width and like dynamics of everything that he's added in. It's almost like kind of having a fifth member musically in there to like create that side of stuff too. So having that stuff to kind of play with is really fun for the live set. And I think just want to like sort of lean into it as much as we can, again, without kind of like crossing the lines of what's getting a bit too polished or too in that direction. But I think that's just, something that we'll sort of figure out bit by bit, and we're always tweaking the live set. So I think that stuff plays in really well for the kind of live band that like I kind of see Sly moving towards, if that makes sense. And I think it'll line up well. We haven't done many shows yet, but fingers crossed.
I think that as well, over the last maybe 10 to 12 years, using tracks for adding elements has become a lot less of a, I think at a period of maybe in the mid 2000s where it was a bit of like a dirty or taboo thing in a way almost. Like it was like, really, you're going to do that? Whereas people understand now it adds to the experience, I guess, to summarize it in such a simple way.
Yeah, because so much of it is like there's obviously, you can go crazy and have like all of the guitars in the mix there and have all of the keys and everything. But there's so much for a live, like I guess in terms of utility of being able to kind of like solo the subs and have the subs like cranking out, which you can't get from just having a bass player on stage, right? And things like the impacts of big drum moments to really sort of accent sections. That's the kind of like track stuff that I really enjoy and kind of what we've been working with. But I think it will obviously change as we kind of like grow into playing the set, because that's the other like difference, and probably the biggest difference in terms of how these songs come together. It's the first time that we've never run any of them before, recorded them. Like we did all of this kind of demoing around a computer, and then we tracked it. So we haven't got in a room and played most of it. It was all done while writing, which was a really fun way to do it. So I think as we go back and relearn the songs and build out the live set, it's going to be really cool to see where we kind of draw and lean on the tracks for those bigger moments. But things like Say Nothing in the piano version, like I don't think that we necessarily like have to stick with the piano for that. I could see that being like an acoustic song live, or even like doing a band arrangement of it live. So yeah, I think it'll just be a song by song basis.
100%. And I think the fluidity is kind of, well, it allows that fluidity, I guess, to be able to go, cool, this song will sound like this. If you're building it like that in the studio and then reverse engineering, you've got that freedom to not be beheld to how it was written and then recorded, I guess.
It's always, I always feel like it's any live performance of any song, whether you wrote it or it's a cover or whatever. I always feel pretty firmly that it's always just going to be an interpretation. You know, like the recorded version is there in perpetuity to be consumed in its kind of, that's its final form, right? That's the way we listen to it when we turn on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever. But every individual time, even that a song gets performed live, it's just an interpretation to me, I think. And I think that's been freeing a little bit in the sense of like, in the past, there's always been lots of combos about like, hey, we need to be able to do this specific thing exactly how this sounds right now in the jam room live. So let's make sure it's good. Whereas, you know, because we've kind of pushed some boundaries a little bit, I think we are more interpreting our own songs now when we get the live set ready, and that's been kind of fun as well. I always love those the small points of difference and stuff, I think, that make live performance so special and like important, because, you know, you go see someone play a live set at the local pub and they play your favorite song and it will never sound exactly like that ever again, right? Like it's this moment in time, and that in of itself is special, I think.
100%. I think we've spoken to a number of people where it's almost what also keeps yourselves like engaged and entertained, because if you're playing note perfect, the exact same thing every time, there's almost like an autopilot or a switch off kind of thing that takes place, and then it becomes boring for you, and then, you know, not really what you want from your favorite songwriters and your favorite band. So I am very excited to see these songs that are going to be played on tour. I want to get to that in a little bit. I do want to acknowledge as well that this is the first album, or maybe it's a return to the first album, in that it's being released fully independent, which is very exciting, because I imagine that there's different things that you can do this time around that maybe wasn't the same under a label. Wondering how that experience has been for yourselves, and whether there was any surprises or anything that you kind of didn't expect from the experience. I know that Sly has always been like a hands-on band with, you know, the music that's being put out and artwork and videos and everything else like that. But yeah, wondering whether there was anything that was different this time around from that behind-the-scenes perspective.
It's nice to just be like the masters of our own destiny, you know? Like I think that's been the key thing. It's been less about like what's been different process-wise this time, and more just about like we're the only ones we answer to. Massive shout out to our manager Skinny, who's done so much of the legwork to kind of make this a reality for us, and like just figuring out all the things that we need to figure out to be able to pull it off. But yeah, I would say rather than it being like, oh, this is different to last time in terms of this, it's more just like we can do what we want, we can plan it how we want, we can, you know, everything we do is entirely on us, for better or for worse. And I think that is a very important part of the reason why we decided to make this decision to go independent. And I nearly said, I was about to say live by the sword, die by the sword, but I don't know if that's actually relevant here or if it's a nice statement. Okay.
I think that there is a power to being independent as well. And again, no shade or no disrespect to any label, major or minor or indie, but there is kind of as you said, like you answer to only you, whereas I know sometimes, and even this is from a lowly podcast perspective, but we see some of the things that are CC'd on to, involving 30 different people on the sound of one little thing, whereas I imagine that there's a sense of freedom where it goes, cool, it's with us, only us, and that's it.
Yeah, as Sam said, it's like been very freeing. Obviously, like a bit scary as well, but more of like the exciting scary in that sense. We kind of like, I would say we sort of like learnt on our feet while like to be an independent band while we're on the label. I mean, when we released Overgrown, we handled majority or all of all the distribution of the actual vinyls and stuff as well. We did all the order packing and the shipping and stuff like that, which is now like my entire living room is just like piled up with boxes and shirts and cups and pens and all the shit that we got. So this time around, it felt more like refining the process of being an independent band versus figuring it out at the time. That might sound a bit weird, but we've had and another shout out to my partner Sherry and Rachel, Sam's partner, because they've been superstars of merch and organization and done the majority of all of that while we were rehearsing and trying to get ready for these upcoming shows. So weirdly, I feel like we've gone from like being a band on a label to being a family business, and that's kind of what it feels like at the moment.
I kind of like that though. I think that maybe a label isn't suited to every band, and I think that has its own unique positives to it. I think that it is a really special album, and so I think it's kind of worked in terms of it being the album that you are being independent with, if that makes sense, that it's aligned that this is the one that is that next step, because it is a really, really special album. I was hoping that you might indulge me a little bit, and I'm not going to direct this question only because I don't know who the primary songwriter is. So whoever it may be, once I go into it, you let me know.
Sure.
The track that I kept coming back to, because I thought that it was almost the song that bridges the new Sly with the old Sly. Like it kind of has elements of old Sly, but then is maybe the clearest. You can see the steps of where the future's going as well. It was clearly a little bit further on in the track list. Wondering, whoever that primary songwriter might be, or both, tell me a little bit more about Clearly, where the song came from and how it was kind of born in the studio.
That would be me. Yeah, that one's a really interesting. It's a bit of a swing in a lot of ways. The music of it all kind of like I wrote the song quite a while ago. I actually think I wrote it maybe just after Overgrown. And I was like, when I wrote it, it was like this like acoustic guitar, fun pop vibe that I was trying to do, where it was almost like a I'm in love with you 1975 type thing. And we played around with it a little bit here and there and never quite landed on a vibe we loved until a year or so later when we were on the first attempt to record the next Sly record, where we had a bit of time where producer was unwell and we just kind of had a studio to ourselves to jam and stuff. And I think Fraser looped a little drum loop and then we just started kind of jamming to it. Shay came up with this little boopy bass line that's super out of the ordinary for us. And we just kind of loved the vibe and then just kind of threw the song into it. But yeah, definitely a pretty significant outlier. Lyrically and stuff, that one's kind of, it's a kind of reflecting on relationships you had when you were younger and the way that we drift apart from friends and stuff and people we're close to, and that whole, the idea of being near 30 and looking back at like high school friendships and the way that they kind of evolve and the way that you're kind of, I don't know, the way that you see the people that are or were close to you kind of evolves and stuff like that. I don't know. Does that answer your question? Is that?
It definitely does. Thank you for sharing that. It is, it was just a track that I thought was really interesting because it definitely had classic Sly elements, but was one that I think you could tell was maybe not necessarily something that was what do you call it? Not like an album like ethos or whatever, but there was definitely like, this was one of the songs where we're trying something new and we're just going to push and see where it kind of goes. And so I kind of really love that. I am excited to see that song and potentially others when you are going out on tour. Pretty much when people are listening to this episode from tonight, I think that you guys have a week or two full of acoustic shows, which is very exciting. Can fans expect to see quite a bit of this album on this this duo tour?
Yeah. We actually did our rehearsals very recently in relation to the recording of this podcast. And Jono, we've got like, there's a fair whack going into the full band launch.
Yeah, we're shooting for 7 out of the 11 we're shooting for
the acoustic.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
That'll be stuff. Yeah. We're going to do our best.
I don't know if Clearly's going to make it in for that first appearance, but I think Clearly as well for me is one that like I'm so excited to do that kind of interpretation of what it is going to be live and sort of, so that's one that I think we're going to take a little bit to sit with and sort of plan out the approach there. But it's super interesting that you picked that as the like, it kind of was like a fork in the road song because we'd done, as Sam said, that like first attempt at making the next Sly record. And then the producer we were working with, Parker, got sick, so we didn't go in to finish it. We had this booked in time in the studio, and I remember Clearly as like one of the first songs that we kind of did in the room with Frey. So it was kind of like the earliest, fork in the road of like, okay, like we're not just going to do the same thing anymore. We kind of have to look at drum machines and such. We've got to go from there.
I kind of love that though. I'm excited to see how it does translate live. Obviously not pushing for too many details, but can we expect further down later in the year some full band shows around the country to, maybe see some of these other songs?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Absolutely. We're in the process of figuring that stuff out now. It's a little bit of a interesting world we're living in at this present moment. So there's a few asterisks up there, but we fully intend to take this record around Australia at the very least in 2026. Hopefully more than that, but we'll see what happens. But keep your eyes peeled. It's going to happen.
Very exciting. As always, you can expect to see us sharing those dates whenever they do become available on the podcast socials. As always, and you guys have always been very kind with your time, both in terms of episodes like this and Christmas episodes. So I feel like you know what I'm going to ask next. Jono, I will start with yourself. Wrapping things up, what are you currently listening to? What's on high rotation for yourself?
Ooh, I have actually been smashing an album called Flowers by The Devil Wears Prada. I'm really enjoying that record. It's a little bit, it's funny, like it's something that I wish I had have found while we were doing this record because it would have been a reference point in so many areas, I think. But it's kind of that kind of more cool, like still very guitar based, but more modern production and synth stuff happening. But just sick vocals, sick kind of heavier songs. So Devil Wears Prada, the album's called Flowers, and it bangs.
Oh, cool. We'll definitely have to check that out. Sam, what about yourself?
I've been absolutely rinsing the latest song by Egoism, just a local band from Sydney, from what I've heard. It's called Catching Up YOLO. Genuinely, I've been getting in the car every day and just putting it on repeat for like my 20-minute drives, listening to it like 4 or 5 times, which has been really, really lovely. I fucking love that band. Shout out Egoism. One of the more like maybe I'm looking for the right word. I think they should be gigantic. And the fact that they're not gigantic, I think, is a travesty. We should all lift our games in that sense. But also shout out to that Audrey Hobart record that came out last year. That was like all I listened to all summer. Stevie Knight, our producer, showed it to me while we were making the record. And once we got home from making the album, that was the only music I listened to probably for the entirety of January. So that's a big one too. Egoism and Audrey Hobart.
two very solid records. That Egoism record from last year, what was it? And Go Nowhere? Mm-hmm. Yeah, fantastic. Addison Road, absolute track. Both Jono and Sam, though, thank you very much for once again coming onto the podcast and having a chat. The new Sly Withers record, to be honest, is out right now when people are listening, and we'll make sure there are links where people can catch you on the tour in the next week or two, buy the vinyl, buy the merch, get some of those pens and cups, Jono, as you said, out of your living room and into the hands of punters. Yeah, exactly. But gentlemen, thank you once again for coming to have a chat.
Thank you, Simon. Love you lots. Appreciate coming on here.